Tom Sidolodo and Horacio Llorens, both extreme paragliding pilots, recently popped into Cape Town. They just arrived on a flight that had started a little over 4 months ago in an Egypt not quite done with its Arab Spring.
When I met Horacio, we thought, okay, we should try to organize something big, you know.
The journey had taken just on 4 months, covering very foreign terrain. The Belgian and the Spaniard were traveling on a literal wing and a prayer.
Africa is a very undiscovered place to fly, you know, in paraglide. Very few pilots have come here to fly in the countries where we have been.
Our plan was and is to make the best paragliding documentary ever made and go in search of those places where no one's been flying before.
Calling the expedition Search Project Africa, the adventurers found the trip challenging from its very start in Alexandria, Egypt.
When we started, actually, we spent 1 month in Egypt only for paperwork and problems with customs and stuff like that. So at that point, I thought we're never going to get there.
Traveling with a support crew of 7, they set off into the desert where they were held up by more than just sand.
And then after, we had to cross to Sudan. And there's only one way to cross from Egypt to Sudan, it's a boat. And the boat was broken, and we had to wait for 2 weeks that they would fix it, you know. So once in a sudden, you're just stuck there, and you got no other option than just enjoy and try to fly as much as possible.
It was turning out to be an Africa that they hadn't quite expected, especially their dealings with the military.
We've been having a lot of arrests in the beginning of the trip. Was more because normally Sudan and Ethiopia, they have big problems between them.
In Ethiopia, they were arrested for flying over a military base, despite flying at altitude. They thought they hadn't been noticed when they landed some 8 kilometers away.
And then they arrived like 2 or 3 big trucks with machine guns, like big anti-aerial machine guns pointing at the sky, you know, ready to shoot. And the guy is very aggressive.
But for the 2 record-breaking paraglider pilots, it was East Africa that they remember for the perfect flying conditions. The areas in which they flew were sometimes barely accessible, far off the main roads, and the ground crew often ended up driving deep into the mountains to follow them.
If you want to do it properly, you need people on the ground, you need people shooting from the tandem, you need so that was great also, because for them it was quite a hard job, you know, trying to follow those 2 pilots flying and taking off anywhere in high mountain.
As expedition photographer John Staples, who became friends with Tom at Scouts, discovered.
For sure, it's not always easy to find them, because sometimes they land in the middle of nowhere and without any network coverage or nothing.
But they were never alone. If it wasn't the vultures and the occasional bird of prey, Tom and Horacio sometimes found themselves delivered by the wind to places they would never have imagined when they left Europe, like a village on top of a remote mountain in northern Kenya.
We top landed in a 3,000 meters mountain, you know, where was a very little village there in Kenya. And all the people from the village came and they were amazed about us. For sure, for these people, they will remember this for many years, because 2 guys arrived by flying to the top of their mountain in their village, land, eat some food and continue flying. No?
While Tom has made his mark for record-breaking altitude flights in the Himalayas, Horacio's passion is a discipline called acro paragliding.
I love to do tricks in the air, to discover new moves, you know, and to be there dancing, you know, because I feel like the aerobatics is a dance in the air, no?
Acro is a fairly rapid descent and a spectacular array of tricks, very controlled aerobatic maneuvers that have been evolved recently by adventurous pilots like Thomas and Horacio.
Veteran pilot Anthony Allen represents the South African Hang Gliding and Paragliding Association. He was on hand to meet the pilots when they landed in Cape Town, with an aim to helping them understand the local conditions. But more than the conditions, it was Horacio's aerial antics that had the photographer, who occasionally flies himself, shaking his head.
At the beginning it was about crazy guys and really high level. Sometimes it's a bit scary.
As they demonstrated by flying over the live volcano of Oldonyo Langai with thunderclouds in the distance.
A big thunderstorm came, and the big cloud was actually, it was sucking so much air that we couldn't stop going up. We were going up at 11 meters per second, which means it's just like in a matter of 2 minutes you go from 1,000 meters to 3,000, 4,000, and then if you get inside the cloud, you can take you to 10,000 meter high, and then it gets freezing cold, and then no oxygen, and then that's the end. You know.
Horacio decided to land on the crater rim of the volcano, but landing presented him with a problem.
When I landed there, the conditions were already pretty dangerous, very strong wind, and then arrived like 80 km/h wind, impossible to take off again. So I had to pack my glider really fast because it was very dangerous to be connected to the harness with this wind there in the top of the volcano. Actually, the wind was so strong that never came down. I could not take off. I had to spend the night there. I found a nice place to sleep in the top of the crater, in the top of the volcano. I was hearing the constant noise of the lava. I was kind of afraid.
Like when he battled to extricate himself from a thundercloud, it's a scenario that would terrify most people. But evidently, Horacio has an inbuilt mechanism that allows him to work well under pressure.
When I have a risky situation, I don't feel fear, no fear at all. I feel the moment is dangerous, I feel I have to react, I react, and I do all the stuff possible, all the things I can imagine to help myself to be safe and to survive.
It was this attitude that carried Horacio, Thomas and the crew safely over the continent. The flight took them over the wildlife of Botswana's Okavango Delta and a churning Victoria Falls, where Thomas said they had to be especially vigilant of the turbulence caused by the waterfall plunging into the gorge.
We were trying to always keep it on the safe side, you know, like because we know also if you have an accident in Africa, you're in trouble. You know, it's not like having a crash in let's say France, in the Alps, where an helicopter can help you, you know, in 5 minutes.
However close they flew to the edge, safety was always on their mind.
While we are doing aerobatics, we have many problems when we are training new tricks. So important when you train the new tricks to have your rescues, to feel your mentality free, to can really push the limits and feel you confident to do these tricks. Otherwise, if you have no safety in your harness, you can feel afraid about what you are doing, and for sure it's going to be wrong.
In Cape Town, they added Table Mountain and Chapman's Peak to their tick list of destinations flown. And just for our benefit, they performed an emergency maneuver over Camps Bay using a system that Horacio himself has devised.
The most important with this system is that first of all you disconnect your glider from you, and second, really fast, you have a new glider over you.
It seemed like forever before the wind was right to take off. But when a gust presented itself, the boys took off, and somewhere over Camps Bay, they performed their maneuver, the first time in Africa that the safety device has been used.